Perfect.
I'm gonna go ahead and start sharing my screen here. All right, we'll wait for folks to start rolling in. In the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up. Great. Okay, I'm gonna do a few things here to get a bit of a mood. Play some music. All right, welcome viewers. Thank you so much for joining us today and welcoming Stacey Band, the founder of Home Day Hero, to come and speak to us on these wonderful points about educating young people on encouraging independence at home, care of self, care of others, and care of the environment, as well as discussing a couple of great children's books. You're tuned into Lost City Books live streamed event. So if you're wondering who we are, you can take a look at our Facebook page or at our website to learn more. But I'll tell you a little bit about us now. Lost City Books is owned by Adam, who is a veteran and a dog lover, a longtime resident of DC, and an enthusiastic disseminator of books. Our close-knit team is a collection of some of DC's coolest kids. We have artists, educators, musicians, writers, and of course, avid readers, all coming together to enrich this unique environment. I'm your host. My name is Shady Rose, and I'm so pleased to welcome my friend of many years, Stacey Band, who is the founder of Home Day Hero. Stacey was born and raised in Michigan and moved to Washington, D.C. in 2008. Ready for new adventures and challenges, she graduated from Michigan State University with a Bachelor of Science in Child Development, the University of Michigan with a Master's in Public Administration, and went on to obtain an AMS in Montessori teaching certification from Montgomery Montessori Institute in Rockville, Maryland. For 10 years, Stacey, the founder of Home Day Hero, has worked hand in hand with children from birth through high school. She has nurtured children and provided parents with an immeasurable support in their parenting. Throughout her life, personally and professionally, she has always displayed her passion to help others and encourage their success. And I'll tell you a little bit about Home Day Hero before we welcome Stacey to the visual stage here. Home Day Hero, the mission of Home Day Hero is to develop strong foundations for young children through supporting adults and empowering children. Children learn best through interactive, hands-on experiences. What can we do to enrich the environments of our children so they can enjoy firsthand experiences with their world? How can we provide children with these experiences in a safe and controlled environment while also allowing children freedom? You can explore these possibilities with Home Day Hero, the Montessori-inspired solutions. All right, and now I would like to welcome Stacey Band. Hello, Stacey.
Hi, Shady. It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Thank you for joining us. I'm so glad that you're here because I know you have so many important things to share about the subject at hand. Having worked with you personally in education, I've always been in awe of your ability to really tackle the challenges that are faced with, that teachers and parents are faced with. So I'm so grateful to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
So why don't we start by having you tell us a little bit about Home Day Hero?
Yeah, so I will tell you, the way that Home Day Hero came to be is because through my experiences with teaching, I came to understand that parents need more help. It doesn't matter whether there's a pandemic or not. It doesn't matter what's going on with the economy or the government. Parents of children need help. They need support. And so the idea was, what could I do with the education and the background that I have to support parents in their everyday lives? And so with working in the classroom, you see a lot of things. And it was my job to report all the things that I saw, all my observations, the good things, the challenging things. And what I was finding is that parents would say things like, well, it works in the classroom, but it's not going to work at home, or it won't work at home. And so I started to really talk a bit more with parents about why they felt that way and what it would mean if somebody could be available to support them in those moments. And so I remember distinctly, I had this one parent, she would reach out and she would say, all right, I'm ready for more Jedi mind tricks. And and I just said to her, they're not mind tricks. It's just, the way that you word things makes a difference. What you say makes a difference, and your body language makes a difference. And, as children get louder, we need to get quieter. And people don't think that, because that's not like an inherent thing to do, right? Like if your child is shouting to get their attention, you're going to shout instead of getting low and close, which is what you need to do. And so just helping parents to connect with their children better through these kinds of Montessori inspired solutions, and partnering with these parents to help them be more successful with their children at home, and help them feel like they're doing a great job, because being a parent is super hard. I mean, I think it's always been hard, but especially in the last, we'll call it 8 or 9 months, it's particularly difficult because we don't really get very many breaks from our kids. They're always around. And so figuring out, how to make small tweaks either in our language or our verbal language or our body language to, help in our approaches makes a big difference. And so that's what I've been working to do. Now, I will tell you, there are a lot of benefits to Montessori education. And the beautiful thing that I say about Home Day Hero, because I truly believe it to be authentic, is that you don't need to have a background in Montessori. You don't need to have attended Montessori school yourself. You don't even need to send your children to a Montessori school to be able to implement these techniques and suggestions that I have available. And so that's kind of the beautiful thing, is like you just come as you are into my Montessori, my home day hero world, and I will do my best to, support you and your family and your children as best I can with the knowledge and experience that I have available.
Absolutely. Something I've always said is that even since moving on from working in Montessori schools, I still use Montessori method in my everyday life.
Yep.
It's so helpful in talking to anyone of any age, but especially when it comes to communicating with little ones who need a little bit of extra understanding and a little
Mhm.
bit of structure around that communication.
Yep.
It's really an incredible tool. I would really love to hear about a little bit about how you how you went about originally launching Home Day Hero.
I'm glad that you asked that. I've actually been working with Home Day Hero for about 3 years now. Well, actually, a little bit more than 3 years now. And it wasn't until about 2 years ago that I launched my website. And the reason why is because I needed some concentrated time to just sit and write and outline and research and pull all these experiences that I had, all these thoughts together. And so that is how it came to be that there are more than 60 free articles that are readily available on my website. I know that sometimes Montessori programs can be expensive. Not all of them, but some of them can be expensive. And I do know that some charter schools and public schools are beginning to open more frequently and kind of adopt Montessori principles. But my thought was I wanted a lot of content on my website because I wanted it to be accessible to anyone. And so that's been a really beautiful thing. And so the idea is that people will go to the website, www.homedayhero.com, and they will take a look at, the content that is available. And if they find that they need a little bit more support, then they will reach out to me. And I do one-on-one consulting. I work with, families all over the country. I even have some families that I've worked with overseas. And I just work through the problems that they have or the problems that they have identified exist in their home. And we figure out ways to make things better. So, yeah, so the way that Home to Hero came to be was um, parent teacher conferences were a big thing every single year. And I would have these conversations with parents, and they would just say, like I had said before, yeah, it's going to work at school, but it's not going to work at home. And so I started to create a list of all of the hot topics, all of the challenges that I was hearing time and again. And then I started to write articles surrounding each of those topics and made them available. So I will tell you, like, all of the work that I have put into Home Day Hero has truly been a labor of love. I'm so grateful to have had, all of that in classroom experience and some really fabulous supportive people around me as I, worked my butt off to pull Home Day Hero together in the way that it, has, come to be known, I suppose. And it's, continuing to develop, right? So it's like you can't just have one thing, right? So it's like I'm always developing um, new programs, new training seminars, new partnerships. And I'm so grateful to have you a part of that.
Yes, wonderful. And that actually segues very well into sort of my next region of questions for you, um, which is about how like which Montessori lessons you've found are super valuable in developing Home Day Hero and in working with families at home and in schools, and sort of which are some of the core tenets of of what you've been doing that you've found to be helpful?
Sure. I have to tell you, I am in love with the Montessori curriculum. I mean, here's the best way I can explain it. When I was a Montessori teacher, I was basically reading a story to children, let's say. And the children would kind of consume whatever that story was, whether that story was lessons or an activity at the rug or some sort of unit that I was presenting surrounding a holiday or some other thing. And then they would go home and they would share that information with their parents. And so now the beautiful thing for me is my daughter is in a Montessori program, and when she comes home and she tells me, "Oh, I read Mac and Tab 1-5." I'm like, "Oh, was that?" And I tell her the name of the book, and she's like, "How do you know that?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, I've read it a few times." And so what ends up happening is it's basically like my daughter is coming home and she is now telling me the story about my favorite book, kind of thing, my figurative favorite book of Montessori. And so it's really interesting to see kind of like how all that comes together. So what I have to say is it's really hard to choose which activities in the classroom are my favorite. But what I have found for families at home is the area of the classroom called practical life and the area of the classroom, which would be like art shelf or music shelf. Those are the areas that I kind of feed off of. And what I've kind of done is looked at all of the Montessori lessons and really identified that the key things are care of self, care of others, and care of environment. And the reason why is because those three things basically serve as a foundation for functioning successfully. And it's not just valuable for a young child to kind of develop those areas, but valuable for all people. And so by highlighting those areas, it allows children to understand that they are part of something bigger in the world and that the world isn't just about them, which is really hard for young children to understand, because they're just like getting to know themselves a little bit. And so by bringing attention to how to care for themselves and also how to care for others and how to care for the environment, it's really beneficial. So some examples of ways that a child can, we'll say, care for themselves might be something as simple as being able to choose their clothes in the morning. Or it might be something as simple as knowing where to put dirty clothes at the end of the day. It might be being able to choose a snack for themselves from a specific drawer in your home or a cupboard. It might be knowing where to put a dirty plate when they're finished. So it's like really basic, but it makes a big difference. Um, and it's like a lot of times, like we as parents get so wrapped up in all of the things we have to do, we don't have the time to think about like how to break it down to those like tiny components. But really, those tiny components that we might not think anything about, they could mean the world to the child. So, like my 2-year old, he knows that there's a snack drawer and he knows that there's a place where he can go to get plates and utensils and things. And if he says he wants a snack, I say, go to your snack drawer and choose something. And he knows that he can only have any one of the things in the snack drawer one time a day. So if he requests or he selects the same thing twice, then we ask him to put it, he has like a little lunchbox. I say, okay, put it in your lunchbox for tomorrow. And that way he knows that he can have it the next day. And so, I mean, he's so happy, so proud of himself, that he's able to choose his own snack and kind of manage that for himself. And he's only 2. Um, the other thing is caring for others. So, caring for others might be something as simple as, one child gets a tissue for the other child, or one child shares a book with the other child, or maybe it would be one child chooses a toy to play with and shares that toy, shares pieces of that toy with the other child, even if it's something like Legos or Magnetiles. So just that idea of caring for others, being respectful of others in different ways, showing just basic grace and courtesy. I think um, children learn a lot from their environments in general. They kind of feed off of their environments and the people within them. And so if we as adults can model grace and courtesy and, ways to be kind and respectful to one another, then children absorb that because they're like sponges, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
the third piece is environment. So care for the environment. So, at the end of every day, we do our very best to clean up our play space. That's what we do in our home. That's part of the way that we care for our environment. And sometimes I say, if we can't put these toys away, that tells me that you don't know how to play with them, because part of playing with them is knowing how to put them away. And so sometimes that means that certain toys are not available the next day because they weren't treated properly the day before. And so, kind of just encouraging um, children to take responsibility of their own things, of their own space, but also giving them the support to be able to do it. And then, like, the parameters, right? The consistent parameters to, you know, I can't think of the word, to encourage consistent outcomes. So there's a lot of skills development in that. I mean, for a young child, I would say the more consistent you can be, the better, because they're going to remember, oh, this is what we do when, like, oh, the cleanup song is coming on. Oh, it must be time to put away the toys, right?
Mhm.
So allowing those opportunities to exist too. I'm sure that when you were teaching in the classroom, you you likely noticed that there were certain children, or a majority of the children, that did their best to show empathy and be respectful, or worked to express their independence or share their kindness. And then you've
Definitely.
got it's just amazing, right? Because it's like these kids are so young, but they can do so much. I mean, they're so capable. It's like once you've shown a child what is possible, it's like the opportunities are just limitless. So I do know that, children who maintained their attendance in the program and made it, into their third year, those were the kids where you really saw like fabulous problem solving skills and a lot of the critical thinking, and just like the ability to also kind of like understand some basic ideas surrounding equity, and that not everybody gets the same thing, but that everyone gets what they need. And that, I think, for me as a Montessori teacher, was really apparent in that not all children received the same lessons. Children received lessons every day, but not every child received the same lessons, because not every child was ready for the same lessons. And so recognizing the importance of every individual child and identifying what the needs are of that child on that particular day, and helping them have their very best day, whatever that very best day looked like for them. And I think that as parents at home with children right now, or guardians, it's also important to realize that not all children need the exact same things. Some children love hugs, some children do not, right? So identifying what those exact needs are and being present to be able to provide those things as best you can.
And that really touches on a point that I really would love to hear your thoughts on, because you've spoken a bit about how these lessons can encourage those myriad small tasks that make up like a self-sufficient and caring and conscious human in a child. And then you've moved on a little bit to speak about how that also engenders that sense of community and that sense of sort of shared responsibility for these things. Can you talk a little bit more about how these lessons really engender that and foster that in young people and also in their caretakers?
Absolutely. I would say that it's mainly about community, right? So how can we be good contributors in our community, whatever our community looks like, however big or small our community is. And so the thought is that even if you can only contribute small tasks to work towards greater goals, that's okay. And so, like, one way to simplify it would basically be, you know, my son is 2, right? So he can't put away all of the toys, but I can give him two good choices and he can identify at least one that he would like to put away. So, would you like to put away these balls or this food? And because they have a play kitchen, of course. It's like the most popular thing in the whole house. It's kind of funny. It's like
I'm
worth
sure.
its, it's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah.
Um, and so giving him those two really viable choices gives him like appropriate power. And so he gets to choose what he puts away. Because if I just say to him, okay, clean up, he's just like, it's too much, right? It's too much to choose from. Whereas my daughter, who's a bit older, she's 4 going on 5. Can you believe that?
Wow.
I know. So with her, I can say, could you clean up the things in this area or that area? And then she's able to function just fine. But that's age. So it's basically just understanding what the capabilities are of the child and meeting them wherever they are. And it's not just about cleaning up toys, but like meeting them wherever they are in general, with their routines, um, with the ways they interact with people inside the home, outside the home, and the decisions that they're able to make. It's really just it's important to just know the child that you have and what they're capable of, and use that as the foundation, and know that like there's plenty more to come, right? Because children kind of grow into themselves in a certain way, and building on those skills is pretty awesome to see.
I completely agree. It's always so wonderful to watch that light bulb go off
Yep.
and see a child reach that understanding and that engagement with an idea and sort of identification with that idea.
Yep.
And that's where you see those real big transformations happening that just make wonderful people later on in life.
Yes, absolutely.
So we've talked a little bit about what these ideas are and sort of how they work. And I would love to hear a bit. I know we have some books that you'd like to talk about later, but I'd love to hear a bit more about specifically the services that Home Day Hero offers, and what some of your articles are about, and a little bit about that if you have.
Yeah, sure. Oh gosh, it's a big question, but it feels so good. I have so much to share.
Great.
So I did mention about the articles themselves on the website. So that's like the primary place where people start. And there's a really great search bar in the top where you can like type in whatever word you're thinking of, and it's going to populate results regarding whatever the topic is you're thinking of. But if you want something that's a little bit less open-ended, I have created tabs. And what you'd be able to do is you can click on all articles, or you can kind of scroll down a little bit and you can see the different ways that articles have been categorized. And the cool thing is that articles that are relevant in multiple areas are, I believe, categorized in multiple areas. I think that's correct. But anyways, I just felt like having all 60 just like there and you just have to like scroll through them that was too much ruckus. And so I think the way that it is now is far more consumable, which is great. So the website is one. And then the second thing is training seminars. So I have been working to develop a few different training seminars about some hot topics. I know I use the phrase hot topics a lot, but it's true. It's like the things that are the most popular on my website. So one of those is encouraging independence at home, which is obviously like huge. Another one is toilet learning.
Mhm.
And another one is all about making healthy choices. And so I'm actually working on a seminar right now that I could tell you a little bit about. It hasn't even been publicized on social media yet. Woo! So
Exclusive.
this is very exciting. So Jean or Azizi, if you're watching, I'm super excited because we are working on putting together a super fabulous training all about encouraging good choices in the home, and reducing power struggles surrounding eating. And I've partnered with I guess she would be considered a school social worker, but she's also an educator and a nurse. I believe she's also a nurse. These ladies have so many credentials, I can't even keep them straight. And then the other woman, Jean, she's a nurse practitioner, but she's also a wellness coach, and she's also a teacher. And so it's It's going to be amazing. We have our final run through on Sunday, and then the program should be live. I think the date, don't quote me on it. I think it's December 10th. So yeah, you'll have to watch for that. But it's going to be great, and we're going to be providing all kinds of like hands-on resources that families will be able to use immediately. So very excited about that. And something else that I've been working on, a big project, has been my monthly activity guides.
Oh.
And you know for a fact, Shady, that I am like obsessed with cooking projects and craft projects. And I have
So good.
basically taken, what's that?
It's so good.
Yes, I've basically taken some of my best craft projects and some of my best cooking projects and recipes, and I have married them together with some resources with music and movement activities, and also social and emotional development activities. So I have a couple of specials that I'm working on. So shout out to Sergio and Leah if you're watching. Thank you so much for partnering with me on those. You know, it's really good to surround yourself with good people. I mean, that's like
That is definitely true.
lift each other up. So we've worked together to create these monthly guides, and the idea is that parents need more support. They just do. And the sense that I get from a lot of the families that I'm working with is I don't have time to come up with ideas. I don't have time to sit and figure it out. I need the ideas coming to me. And I was like, all right, I got you covered. So, what we've done is we put together 10 activities total that families will receive to their email box once a month. And most of the activities are the kinds of things that your kids will want to return to multiple times. It won't just be like something you do once. Um, Hopefully, your children will be requesting to do these activities because they'll be so happy and excited about them. And most parents are using these activities like after virtual learning ends and before dinner, or after dinner but before bedtime. So it basically makes these two times of day that might feel a little bit stressful and tricky a lot easier because your activities are already planned through these activity guides, and then the children can choose from the list of things. And so far, I've gotten some really fabulous feedback. This is the first formal month that I am doing it. Usually, we charge $20 a month for the activities, or families can sign up for a whole year for $120. So it's basically like 120 activities for $120, which I think is a steal. I think it's a pretty good deal. So that's a huge project that I've been working on, and I have other projects in the wheelhouse too, but can't talk about them yet.
They're still on the sly a little bit there. Uh,
Yes,
but, but that program sounds incredible.
thank
So
you.
for parents who are looking to engage with this kind of material, but maybe they are really engaged with work and maybe they don't have the creative capacity to generate their own activities, you're saying that they can subscribe to this, and they'll have everything just laid out, very organized for them to just kind of ready to open
Yep,
and go with their young people.
yep, exactly.
Nice. That sounds great. I wish I had kids. I would use that.
It's
uh,
awesome. And you can even like people can even purchase it and then like leave it with an aunt and uncle, or leave it with the babysitter, or leave it with the grandparent. Like I know for a fact there's one family where they said, "Oh yeah, we're doing it, but we're actually sending them along to the grandparents so that she has a plethora of things to choose from when we go visit in December for the month or something." And I was like, "That's awesome." So it's yeah, it's a good resource. I think the more families that sign up for it, the better it will be
Absolutely.
for me and everybody else too.
Absolutely. For those of you watching, if you want to find out how to engage with these materials, I put some links in the comment stream
Oh,
there.
great.
So you can find homedayhero.com and follow from there to get the information you need to participate in this.
Thank you so much.
Moving forward a little bit, I definitely want to ask you a little bit about what kind of materials we can offer our children to kind of engender these feelings and practices. And I know we're going to talk about some books in just a second here too. But aside from these three books that we're about to talk about, do you have sort of a few recommendations on kinds of materials that are appropriate for this, or even just ways to engage with media and materials with children that can help engage them?
Absolutely. So I think if I heard your question right, well, ways that children can engage with books specifically, or these books specifically, or something larger like the community itself.
Definitely with books in general, or if they're having screen time, or if they're having
Yeah,
what have you, and then we can pop into talking about the books, which will be
perfect.
available at Lost City Books for purchase. But
Fabulous.
yeah, if you want to expand on that a bit.
Yeah, so the best thing to do is to make books available. I mean, that's like the biggest thing. So I know in our family room, we have like a little library nook. It's just like a simple shelf from Amazon. We actually got these cloth pieces that kind of, I guess they're spheres if they're filled fully. And we actually put all of the loveys that we're not enjoying right now in them. And the reason why is because the loveys were just like too much ruckus for my Montessori mind. And by that, I mean like a lot of Montessori teachers don't believe in plush toys. Like that's just not part of the pedagogy. Like it's more about like solid wood and like very like crisp looking things, and stuffed animals are usually not that, but they have made their way into my house in a pretty significant way. And so I said to the kids, I was like, listen, all of the loveys that you are just like in love with right now, you can have them on your bed or on this shelf in your room, but otherwise they need to be put away. And so we actually put them away, and those two spheres became like the cushions in the library nook.
That's great.
And they know that that's what's in there, and they're very happy to like hang out over there. And so they have books in that common area, but then they also have books in their bedroom. And the idea is that by making the books available, they are able to choose. And so they can choose them as one of their activities. And so sometimes, like after breakfast, my son will go and he'll like rest in his little library nook in the family room, and he'll just be flipping through books. And sometimes he'll bring them over to me to ask, read this in his sweet little way. Read this, mama. And so we do. And we also make a point to read books every night. So the children get to choose up to 3 stories every night, depending on their listening ears. And and they know that, and so they do their best to listen as best they can so they don't lose any of their stories. One of the things in Montessori is logical consequence, and the idea behind that is the consequence that occurs is related to the action that has occurred. So like if one of the kids isn't doing a great job listening, then their listening ears must be too tired for a story. And so that's like the connection that we've made in our home, and that's why they would end up losing a story. And so, yeah, making books accessible at home, I think, is the biggest thing. A variety of content is good, things about animals, things about people, things about places. Um, Showing diversity in characters, I think, is very important. And it allows children to like gain a better understanding of the world is bigger than them, and the world is bigger than just people that look like them. And I think that that's a really big thing in our culture right now in general. But I think when it comes to Montessori environments in particular, there was always a big focus on geography and science. And so, because there's such a big focus on geography and science, there's a lot of cultural studies. There are a lot of historical studies and geographical studies that kind of open children's eyes to the fact that this world is a big place and there are lots of things to see and do. And you know people live in different places, and some places have mountains and some places don't, and some places are surrounded by water because it's an island, right? And allowing children to grow their eyes wide and see like all of the beautiful things that exist in our world, even if it is through books and within our four walls.
I so love that phrase, to grow their eyes wide. I love that phrase so
Mhm.
much, and I think it really encompasses um, the kind of thought environment that Montessori
Yeah,
really creates. I think now is a good time, if you'd like.
sure.
I'll bring up the screen to share the covers of the three books that we're going to talk about today, and then if you would like, you can read from the one that you mentioned earlier. Let me
Sure,
just
of course.
pull that up really quick. So we'll start with uh, Dream Big Little One, because I think you wanted
Hmm.
to read Be Kind, right?
Yes, yes.
Right.
Now, I have to tell you, Dream Big Little One is actually written by Vashti Harrison, and it is an author that I have recommended numerous times on my website. I have no connection to her. I don't receive any profits or any kind of thing like that from her at all. She was actually brought to my attention by a friend, Dr. April, and this particular author is so fabulous because she brings a lot of points to the fact that people are not all the same. People are special and unique and different, and why. And I think that that is really important for children to understand that we are all so capable. And books like this one, Dream Big Little One, express that pretty much explicitly. And all of her books do, whether it's The Little Leaders, Bold Women, or one of her other books. I think about, she has another book about men and their experiences, and other famous people as well. And it's just amazing. I mean, like the first 2 pages, I'll just read really quickly. Dream big, little one. There's so much you can do. Just look at all the leaders who came before you. And it goes in and it explains like who different people are and why they were so important to our society, like what their contribution was that was so important. And it really draws good attention to these people who were, um, I'm having trouble with some words tonight, who were pioneers in their fields, and many of which were ahead of their times, just like Maria Montessori. So I love
Absolutely.
this book, Dream Big Little One. It's fabulous.
That's beautiful. And for all of you watching, all of these three books that we're talking about today will be available at Lost City Books. So you can pop right on in and order them for yourself, or buy them for yourself and your little one as well. Let's see, our next, oops, I went backwards there.
That's okay.
Oh no, what am I doing? Okay, 1 second, everyone. We have another thing to share too.
You can hold it up.
Yeah, there we go. It's called what's the word? Analog.
That's okay.
Yeah, if you'd like to tell us about Ordinary Mary's
Extraordinary
Extraordinary
Deeds.
Deeds.
Yeah. So this is a very interesting story. This book was actually brought to my attention by my daughter's teacher, and she actually read it when we were all in quarantine in the spring. And what I love so much about this book is it allows children to see the ripple effect they can have when they do something that is so great. And then, excuse me, the flip side of that coin is, excuse me, the flip side of that coin is what happens if you do something not so great? Like, what is the ripple effect of that? Which is not discussed in this book. But I would imagine that would be part of a conversation that would occur if you were reading this with your child. Like, look at all the good that or ordinary Mary did. But what if she had done something that wasn't so great? What would that have done? Like, what effect would that have had? And so this book basically goes through and explains how Mary's just ordinary, until one day she finds some blueberries and she decides that she is going to take those blueberries. They use all kinds of fabulous descriptive words like juicy, luscious, lovely. And then she takes those berries and she shares them. And when she shares them, she takes them to a woman, and the woman makes blueberry muffins, and that woman shares them with five more people. And so it's this idea that goodness goes the whole way around. And at the very end of the book, sorry, so spoiler alert, at the very end of the book, it says, Mary's extraordinary deed had come full circle, and on its way, it had changed the lives of every person living. You see, when Mrs. Bishop made muffins from Mary's blueberries, not only the paper boy, but made five people smile, and those five did too. And after a while, in only 16 days, love was sent to every person everywhere. Just see how it went.
Oh, that touches my heart
Isn't
so much.
that amazing?
Yes.
And then it says, well, 30 billion is way more than all of the people on the planet. So, after everyone had a share and everybody knew that somebody cared, there was even some left over. Is that amazing?
Beautiful. That's utterly beautiful.
So, when I heard this book, I was like, my word, I need this book in my life, like in my home library. And that's why it's here.
That is so great. Thank
And
you.
just, yeah, sure. And just to speak to this really quickly, um, children who are young, even 2 to 6 year olds, can still do what you might consider community service or social action. Um, we've done a number of things in our home that have been really impactful, that I'm really glad that we were able to do. Things like um, collecting non perishables and giving them to the mailman for a collection, or taking pieces of fleece and creating blankets, doing the tie blankets. We've also made cards for people who live in nursing homes. There was a lady who was celebrating her 100th birthday in quarantine, and the goal was to send her 100 cards to celebrate her 100th birthday. And so we handmade this like really gorgeous, complicated, layered, tie-dye painted card that my daughter and I put together. And then she took a picture with her 100 cards, and like her granddaughter posted it on Facebook. And it's just like these little things, I mean, make a huge difference for people. And so, just like ordinary Mary, any child could start that, bring happiness to all the people in the world.
That is so great. And if you'd like to speak a bit about Be Kind, or I think you wanted to read it a bit as well, if you like.
Yeah, if possible. Do we have enough time to read it a bit?
I think we can manage that.
Okay. So this book is best for last because it speaks to the feelings of an individual child and what things might look like for any child on any given day in any environment where other children are. And it recognizes feelings in a really real sort of way. And it teaches about respect and disrespect and empathy and sympathy, and what it feels like and what it looks like to support another person. And I think right now, we could all use a little bit of that. So this story is called Be Kind. It's by Pat Miller, and it's illustrated by Jen Hill, and it's also available at Lost City Books. So Tanisha spilled grape juice yesterday all over her new dress. Everyone laughed. I almost did too. But mom always tells me to be kind, so I tried. I don't think it worked. I said, purple is my favorite color. I thought Tanisha would smile, but she ran into the hall instead. When she came back, snack time was over. She put on her art smock and didn't look at anyone. I almost told Tanisha that art was my favorite class, but I didn't want her to leave again. So I painted purple splotches and added some green until I had a bunch of beautiful violets. While I painted, I thought about Tanisha. Should I have handed her my napkin? Let her borrow my sweatshirt? Spilled my juice so everyone stared at me instead? What does it mean to be kind anyway? Maybe it's giving, making cookies for Mr. Rinaldi who lives alone, letting someone with smaller feet have my too tight shoes. He might win races with them too. Maybe it's helping, putting dirty dishes in the sink, cleaning up after Otis, our class guinea pig. He's a messy eater. Maybe it's paying attention, telling Desmond I like his blue boots, asking the new girl to be my partner, listening to Aunt Franny's stories, even the ones I've heard before. Being kind should be easy, like throwing away a wrapper or recycling a bottle or saying, thank you, grace and courtesy. Bless you, more grace and courtesy. Hey, Carla, grace and courtesy. What's new, Omar? Also grace and courtesy. Good afternoon, Rabbi Mandelbaum. My mom says the quickest way to be kind is to use people's names. More grace and courtesy. And easy to implement at home, right? Being kind can be hard too, even when you know what to do. Teaching someone something I'm good at is tricky, even when I'm patient. And sticking up for someone when other kids aren't kind is really hard and really scary. Maybe I can't solve Tanisha's grape juice problem. Maybe all I can do is sit by her in art class and paint this picture for her because I know she likes purple too. Maybe I can do small things, but my small things might join other small things that other people do. And together, they could grow into something big. Should I keep reading? Okay. I
Yep.
love this story so much. I could read it every day. Okay. Something really big, so big that all our kindness spills out of our school, spreads across our town, travels across the country, and go all the way around the world. Right back to Tanisha and me, so we can be kind again and again and again.
That is so lovely.
Did you see what Tanisha did?
Oh, the painting.
Above her bed.
Yes.
So we actually read this story to my daughter after my son was born because, like when things change in a household, things change in a household a lot. And so we had to talk a little bit about, like, okay, we're all important, we're all valuable. And, we might always be saying, oh, you need to be kind, you need to be kind. But, like, what does that mean? This is what it means. And she got it. I mean, it really clicked for her because she's like, oh, like, okay, I can be kind now. Took more than that, but this was really good reinforcement.
Amazing. And for those of you watching, these are the kinds of lessons and the kinds of stories that you can engage with Stacey at Home Day Hero. I think we have a few more minutes, so I'm going to open the floor to any questions from the viewers. If you want to leave your question as a comment on the live stream, you can go ahead and do that. In the meantime, Stacey, I'll start you off with a question.
Sure.
And I guess my question for you is, what do you say to families who don't see how these methods can be implemented at home when it seems to them to be like a highly technical process, and they don't see how they can be the kind of teacher that you are in their own homes?
I can dispel that very easily. It's a great question. So, a lot of the work that I do isn't about changing everything all at once. And it isn't about changing really big things all at the same time either. It's more so the same as I would do in the classroom, right? If I meet the child where they are, I'm going to meet the parents where they are too, right? So in the classroom, I would meet the child where they are. And here in the big outside world, I would meet the parents where they are. So it's basically like I just ask the parent, like, what are you observing? What's going really well? What feels challenging? Why do you think it feels challenging? And really allowing the parents to tell me their stories. And I just do my best to be a great listener. And by doing that, by hearing those stories from those parents, it really allows me to better understand their family life, their preferences, and what feels difficult or challenging to them. And then what I can do is take that information and build on it. So, um, two of the options I have available on my website for this one-on-one coaching is like it's a 2-hour package, and they're like peak meeting times and non-peak meeting times. And basically, what you do is we have this kind of a conversation, like I just explained, and then I take some time and I basically write up a report and let you know what suggestions that I have to change some things. And of course, like I preface it with, change one thing at a time and see how it goes. And you have to be consistent on the one thing, whatever it is that you choose. And then the idea is that I would follow up in 2 to 4 weeks to see how are things going. And then we follow up again in another 2 to 4 weeks. And then we have our final meeting 2 to 4 weeks later. So over the course of a period of time, let's say 3 months, you are able to work through some of these challenges that are really disrupting your day and identify what you can do that might just be so slight, that makes a big difference. Like, for example, families who have their kids at home right now, their kids are eating lunch at home, right? And you're working from home, and you don't have time to like stop and make lunch in the middle of the day. So why not pack lunch while cleaning up from dinner? Why not talk through it with the child? Well, this is what we do in our home. Well, I am physically cleaning up from dinner. My child is getting out the things that she needs for her lunch for the next day. And I'm telling her, okay, well, what fruit would you like? Would you like apple or, pear? Or would you like mango or cranberries? Whatever the two viable options are that day, that week. And then she chooses from those limited options. And if she has another idea, she'll be like, oh, but do you have any more mango? And I'm like, actually, I do have a little bit more, just enough for tomorrow, kind of thing. So anyways, just like giving the children those kinds of experiences, to make things less difficult in those tricky times. So I would say, yes, some of the things that could be implemented might feel or seem big, but we break it down into smaller, more digestible pieces so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming. It doesn't feel bad. It feels great. It should feel great.
Definitely, it definitely can and should feel great. Um, and thank you for that. It looks
Sure.
like we don't have any other questions right now from our viewers. They're feeling a little shy, maybe.
Okay.
However, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to say a little bit more about Home Day Hero as we close it out, and to thank you for being here. If you have anything else you'd like to add about your organization, I would love to share that with our audience.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thank you again so much for thinking of me. I'm so blessed to know you and have had opportunities to work with you for so many years. And I know right before we got on, we'd said, my gosh, I haven't seen you in so long. It's so good to see you. And it's so good to see you. And I'm so, so glad to still be ruminating in your circle. And I'm really glad that I could share Home Day Hero with more people. I feel like my goal is to bring Montessori into more homes everywhere. And I guess the goal in that is it doesn't have to be Montessori, it doesn't have to be Montessori as the thing that's coming into your home. It's positive parenting solutions, right? It's just parenting solutions. And the goal is to make people's life better, make people's life easier. And if I can do that, then my goals have been met, and I'm just really glad to be able to bring the information that I have to more people beyond the four walls of the classroom I knew so well.
Wonderful. And thank you so much for being here again. I'm going to share your title screen here with
Oh, great.
our viewers again so that they can take a look at you and at
Thank
Home Day
you.
Heroes information here. But for everyone taking a look here, you can find Home Day Hero at homedayhero.com. That's correct, I think.
Yep.
And you'll be able to subscribe to the articles and read those amazing free articles that are available. You can subscribe to some of these lessons that we've been talking about today, and you can learn more about what kind of materials and what kind of spaces to create with your young people. I want to say thank you so much, Stacey, for being here tonight. You're one of the most proficient and skilled and compassionate educators I've ever met.
Oh my gosh,
And
thank you.
it's just so heartwarming to get your perspective on these points and to introduce Home Day Hero to some more people. Um, and for those of you watching, if you're interested in buying these 3 books that we discussed today, they are available on the shelves at Lost City Books. You can either go on to lostcitybookstore.com and find them, or you can walk right into our store and you'll find them in our wonderful children's section. But we have a lot of wonderful books similar to these, all about the wonderful ways that a young child can be. I want to thank all of you for watching tonight, and I hope you all have a really great, what is it, Thursday? Thursday evening. And I'll sign off and say good night. Thank you, Stacey.
Thank you.
Good night.